I always hear it in post. Hey, 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 hey. Welcome to Hilda's Place. Joining me today is Miss Danye Brown.
Hi, hello.
Actress, singer, dancer, director, soon to be released writer. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So we're just going to relax and have fun.
Okay.
All right? No rules. Only rule is to have fun
Okay.
and to tell the truth.
Okay.
Okay. So we've known each other since 2011.
Yes.
Detroit,
Yes.
Michigan. I met Danye when she auditioned for a piece that I wrote on Afeni Shakur. And she auditioned and was casted to play Afeni. And there were a lot of folk who wanted to know how I casted her or why I casted her, because she don't look like her. There were at least 5 actresses from as far away as South Carolina who looked like a Shakur, who was there to audition and thought for sure that because they looked like her, they would be casted. And this is the woman who played her and played her well. You want to talk a little bit about that experience?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I remember that audition. I remember because I had actually auditioned for you before for True Colors Theater's Black Nativity. And I knew who you were. And, you know, I was excited about the audition. And at that time, you know, I mean, and even now, I was happy to audition for whichever role. You know, I just really wanted to work. And so that I remember the process being different like no other. And then I remember being in the process and knowing it and like, oh yeah, this is it right here. I get to be creative. She wants to see what we do organically. Like, oh yeah, this is it right here, because it was just a very freeing experience. It gave us the opportunity to interact with each other, release the pressure of like being in an audition and having to be like perfect, how sometimes artists just want to have the perfect audition. And so I was excited about that, and just stepped up to the challenge of reading for Afeni. I knew how big that could be, and I knew the responsibility that came with it, especially being at the Tupac Shakur Center of the Arts, surrounded by his family and people who cared about his legacy. It was a pretty huge opportunity. So I did as much research as I could on Afeni Shakur and realized that she was a pretty amazing woman with a history of being an activist, and she was just a very passionate person. So right at the door, I knew that I could connect even just on the level of passion. So I didn't know that I would be cast as the lead, and then when I was cast as Afeni, I definitely used what God gave me, the talents God gave me, to transform and to become this woman. I wanted to capture her vocal rhythm. I wanted to capture her, I wanted to know how she thought, so that when I'm performing this piece, the actions could be instinct instead of just like I'm playing a part. So, and the experience, the rehearsal process, which was led by Hilda, is extraordinary. I mean, she pulls the truth out. If you think you gonna come up in there and just be acting, you are seriously mistaking yourself and tricking yourself out. But there were many nights where the truth just had to rise. It's kind of like when you take gold and you have to, or when you're making gold and all the impurities come to the top. Hilda's process makes the truth rise to the top, and we have to walk in it, and we have to be consistent in walking in it. And then check this out: when you walk in it, once she sees it, then she's going to raise it to the next level. You know what I mean? So it's not like the work ever stops. And for that, I admire her and I admire the process. I grew as an actress. We had the opportunity to perform with young teens, as well as professional actors, and some who I think some of them it was just their first play or something. So there was a range of talent and artists there. And Afeni came to see the show. And that was amazing too.
It was for her 65th birthday celebration.
Yeah, she came to see it. And of course, as an artist, we wonder, like, you know, are we doing the character justice? One of the things I did for the research, I don't know if I share this with you, is that I read Jasmine Guy's book, her autobiography on her, and man, it was loaded with information that was very helpful to the rehearsal process for me. And then I also took CDs that had been given to me by the Tupac Center, and like trips, she took some mission trips to Africa, and she was speaking she would speak at various places, and I was able to listen and watch her. I mean, she's on YouTube as well. Just a wonderful body of work. You think, oh, she's just Tupac's mom, but this woman was like a crusader for peace, justice, you name it, she was fighting for it. And then knowing her son, who carried that same legacy, she advocated for his legacy to go on and on and on. So I was very honored to be able to play that role and to be directed by you.
One of the things that led to me deciding you for the role was I knew that I was looking for an actress who could sing and could dance. So the additional challenge to that piece was that Afeni Shakur would sing and she would dance, and she would dance with a big pregnant belly. And so, you know, we've not talked about it, but I need you to know that I'm almost always looking for a triple threat, even if it's a straight drama. Thank you for sharing that. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you may have had in the course of your career, but also I want to talk about things that you have celebrated, and you have many things that you have done very well. So I want to get down and a little bit dirty, just knee-high dirt.
Okay.
Not hip hop.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Goodness, you said a lot of wonderful things about my process, and I appreciate that. However, I want to talk a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So I said that I was looking for a triple threat, and I'm almost always looking for one. And I introduced you as singer, dancer, actor, yada, 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 yada. You've had quite a bit of success, I'm going to say, in your young age compared to my age.
Okay.
And how long have you been in Atlanta now?
It's been 7 years now.
7 years. So, came in from LA.
Yes.
Okay. So, let's talk about challenges. Just name the 2 greatest challenges you've had as an artist emerging into this thing called full-time performing artist.
I would say the first challenge is believing in myself. It took me longer than it should have for me to step into myself and embrace everything that comes along with me. And that's because, you know, when I was young, it wasn't looked at as a serious profession. So when I would do things, you know, there was no investment in it. And so I didn't think it was good enough, you know. But I even had teachers, by the time I got to high school, I had teachers who poured into me and thought everything of what I did, and I still didn't believe it. I mean, I would do what they asked me to do, but I was constantly like checking out and just kind of like, maybe I shouldn't do that, or, and what I realize now as a grown woman is that back then, the other students had confidence. And I just didn't have as much confidence back then. And that was it. So it wasn't that anyone was more talented than me or I them. It was just that they knew and believed and was encouraged and knew that this was what they were going to do. And I just wasn't sure. I just didn't know.
Do you think that had anything to do with when you were younger, that the confidence or lack thereof was one of the reasons maybe you didn't feel as supported? You feel like you just weren't taking a strong enough stand?
No, I actually disagree with that because I was the type of child that would come home and tell my mom what I did, So I joined the marching band, and I remember saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm in the marching band," And she would look and like, "Well, how are you going to get to rehearsal? And how do you know?" And I just would make a way for that to happen, But yeah, I still, even though I didn't have the confidence, I still was seeking opportunities and I clinged to people who fed into that part of me and was like, "You're good, you should continue." Then I just clinged to them and I was like, okay, how should I do this? Because I didn't know,
Can I get in there a little bit?
Okay.
So it's wonderful for you to have your aha and know that it was more confidence than anything. Do you know, not that you have to know, do you know what created that lack of confidence? Was it something specific, or do you think it's just a part of growing up and things that you go through growing up?
Oh, I think it was environmental. I think it was my surrounding. I think it was all of that. Okay. Yeah.
That's a great distinction to make because many people don't have that distinction. Environment is critical. Yeah. You're doing well, kid. And I know you're a grown woman. Any other challenge you want to talk about? Being in this market, what are the challenges? Seeking acting gigs and or directing gigs. What are the biggest challenges in this market? Atlanta's a tough market.
You have to have a strong backbone, and you have to be a person who does not listen. Like, you have to know how to listen. You have to know how to hear. So you have to know when criticism is truth and when criticism is designed to hold you back for when it's being manipulated, when it's manipulation.
Is there a difference between LA market and Atlanta market when it comes to pursuing your art?
Yes. In the LA market, I had a group. There were a group of us who were artists, and we were going for it, and we celebrated when we made it, because it is a different market. There aren't a lot of roles for African American women. There aren't a lot of African American women in the entertainment industry. So that was something we celebrated. When someone got something, it was like, yes. It was like, go, and I'm next, and we were like, you're next, and we were there for each other. And it's different here. It's different. It's different. It's as if someone gets something, it's like someone else is shunned by it. But so you have to be a person who does not. So I spend a lot of time trying to balance I feel like the energy of others sometimes, and that's hard. It's hard and it's draining sometimes. But it's like, I don't want to intimidate anyone with what I possess, and I don't want to be intimidated by what anyone else possesses. And so if I grow to a point, which I've grown to a point where I don't allow what someone else has to affect what I know God has for me, then now I'm spending my time trying to build up people around me so that we all know that we win together. And that's what I would love for the Atlanta market to have more of.
Well, as long as you're here, I'm sure they'll have more of it. And if people miss out, you won't, because that's what you're building for yourself.
Right.
And we're almost out of time for this segment, but I want to share one thing with you, and I want you to give me at least one question you would have for me as a coach.
Okay.
And I may answer it after your performance,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Okay.
Can you visualize a rose right here in front of you?
Yes.
What color is that rose?
Red.
Is it open or is it closed?
Open.
Okay. Whenever you are in an environment that isn't supportive of you, because now you're at a level where you are beginning to hear. You need to trust what you hear. And if you have a question, give it back to Spirit and just keep listening. But as long as you can envision a rose in front of you, when you are in an environment and there's negative energy, have the energy just go into the rose. Because see, if you can envision that tells me that, and you must have said energy at least 5 times. So that lets me know you are aware of it, and now it's learning how to move it. And it's not about trying to keep someone else's experience from happening, because things happen because they happen. Like, who am I to say that what you're going through isn't something that you're supposed to go through? It doesn't mean that I have to throw up on you because I'm going through it. You may not be able to stop my intentions, because you may not know what they are. But if you pick up that something is not right, all you have to do is send that energy into something. And I say send it into a rose, because a rose is beautiful. A rose is loving. Your rose is open. It has thorns. That comes with being a rose. But if someone is sending negative energy your way, then let them deal with the rose. And it could be water, it could be anything. But what comes up for me, for you, is a rose. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's peace.
Yeah.
And that's a large part of peace work. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. So we got to find our peace and know our peace so we can keep the peace.
That's right.
So what are you going to do for us when we come back?
I'm going to perform an interpretive dance piece that will lead into a monologue from Lynn Nottage's Ruined, role of Selima.
So you'll be in dialect.
Yes, I'll be in dialect. And then I will sing a piece from Mahalia Jackson's Troubles of the World.
Woo! Give it up, give it up, give it up for Danye.
Do you know what I was doing on that morning? I was working in our garden, picking the last of our sweet tomatoes. I put Beatrice down in the shade of the frangipani tree because my back was giving me some trouble. Forgiven. Where was Fortune? He was in town fetching a new iron pot. Go, I said, go to Diamond or you won't have dinner tonight. I've been after him for weeks over a new iron pot. And finally on that day, the damn man had to go and get it. A new pot. The sun was about to crest, but I had to put in another hour before it got too hot. This splendid peacock came into my garden, showing off his feathers. I stooped down and I called to the bird. Whist. Whist. And just then I felt a shadow cut across my back. And when I stood, 4 men stand before me with wicked schoolboy smiles. Yes, I said, and the tall one slammed the butt of his gun against my cheek. It happened so quickly I didn't even know I'd fallen to the ground. Where did they come from? How did I not hear them coming? One of the soldiers held me down with his boot. His boot was so heavy. He was so heavy, thick, like an ox. His boot was dried and withered like it had been sitting in the rain for weeks. His boot was so heavy, and it was all that I could see. While the others took me. My baby was crying. Beatrice was such a good baby. She never cried, but she was crying and screaming. Shh. I said. And then one of the soldiers stomped on her head with his boot. And she was quiet. Where was everybody? Where was everybody? Soon we'll be done with the trouble of the world, trouble of the world, trouble, Lord, of this world. Soon we'll be done with the trouble of the world, coming home to live with my Lord. No more we weeping and wailing no more. Weeping and wailing no more. Weeping and wailing, I'm a-going home to live with God.